This is Theo Marsh. Every morning he wakes up with real intentions. The gym before work, the portfolio he's been meaning to finish for 2 years, the 10 pages of a novel he swears he'll read before bed instead of after. And nearly every morning he reaches for his phone to check the time and somehow surfaces 90 minutes later, thumb still moving, having learned nothing worth keeping, and quietly compared his entire life to several hundred people he has never met. He knows it's happening. That's the strange part. He isn't confused about the mechanism. He's read the articles about dopamine and infinite scroll. He's tried the grayscale trick. He's set app timers. He clicks straight through without reading. None of it seems to matter in the actual moment. The moment always feels like just 5 minutes, and the 5 minutes always turns out to be a lie that he tells himself with total conviction every single time. His friend Owen, watching him check his phone for the 4th time in 10 minutes over lunch, finally says something. "You put your phone away whenever you talk to me," Owen says, "and then 20 seconds later, it's back in your hand. I don't think you're actually choosing to do that." Theo laughs it off, but it stays with him longer than he expects. Theo works a job he doesn't hate exactly, but doesn't want either. Steady, forgettable. Not what he pictured for himself at this age. 2 years ago, he decided he was going to build a portfolio and switch into design work. Something that actually used the part of his brain that felt alive. He bought the software, he watched the first 4 tutorials, and somewhere in the 2 years since, evenings that were supposed to belong to that portfolio kept dissolving into his phone instead. Not because he decided to give up on it, exactly, but because the phone was always right there and starting felt hard, and scrolling felt like nothing at all. He'd tried discipline. Real discipline, the kind where he deleted the apps entirely for a week, felt proud of himself, and then reinstalled all of them on a Thursday night after a bad day at work, telling himself it would just be temporary. It was never temporary. What confused him most was that he wasn't lazy in every direction. He could focus for hours on a video game or a long conversation, or even occasionally the portfolio itself once he actually got moving. It was only the getting moving part that seemed to have some invisible wall around it, and the phone was always sitting right on the other side, offering an easier door. It was on one of his lunchtime walks, the ones he'd started taking specifically to get away from his desk and his phone for 20 minutes with only partial success, that Theo first noticed the old man by the pond. He was sitting on a bench, an old glass jar in his hands, half full of cloudy pond-colored water. He wasn't drinking it, he wasn't doing anything with it as far as Theo could tell. He was simply holding it, looking at it, the way someone might look at a fire. Theo passed him 3 more times that week before curiosity finally beat his usual instinct to keep walking. "Can I ask what you're doing with that?" Theo said. "Waiting," the old man said without looking up. "For what?" "You'll see if you sit here long enough." Theo almost kept walking. Instead, mostly to prove to himself he could sit somewhere without pulling out his phone for 5 straight minutes, he sat. His name, Theo would learn, was Master Feng, a retired teacher who'd spent 30 years lecturing on philosophy before deciding, in his words, that he'd rather practice it than explain it to teenagers who weren't listening. "Can I ask you something?" Theo said eventually. "You look like someone with a lot of patience. I don't have any. I plan to do something every single day, and I end up on my phone instead. And I don't understand why knowing exactly what's happening doesn't stop it from happening." Master Feng held up the jar. The water inside was still cloudy, gray-brown, impossible to see through. "Watch this," he said, and shook it, hard 3 or 4 times, the cloud thickening, swirling. "What is that supposed to show me?" "Your mind," Master Feng said. Every time you check the phone. I don't follow, Theo said. This water is pond water, Master Feng said. Left alone, it clears on its own. The silt settles, the light gets through, you can see straight to the bottom. That's not something you have to force. It's what water does, given the chance. But every time something disturbs it, a hand, a stick, a stone thrown in, it clouds again and has to start settling all over from the beginning. He set the jar down on the bench between them, still swirling, and they both watched it for a moment. Your mind does the same thing, Master Feng continued. Left alone for even a short stretch, it settles. Thoughts arrange themselves. You can actually see what you're trying to do and why, and what the next real step is. But every time you check the phone, even for what feels like 5 seconds, you're putting your hand back in the jar. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are for the next 5 minutes. You've disturbed it again. It has to start over. So the problem isn't that I don't have willpower. Willpower is what people reach for when they don't understand the actual mechanism, Master Feng said. You've been trying to force clear water by wanting it clear harder. That's not how settling works. Nobody has ever willed muddy water clean through sheer determination. You simply stop disturbing it and wait. This is worth pausing on because it isn't just a nice metaphor. It's a precise explanation for why willpower fails at exactly this kind of habit, and it's worth understanding exactly how. There's an old teaching in Taoist thought that says almost exactly what Master Feng just said. Who can wait quietly while the mud settles? Who can remain still until the right moment simply arrives on its own? In Taoist thought, this idea has a name, Wu Wei. The same idea, in fact, behind water, finding its way around a stone without forcing itself straight through it. It's often mistranslated as doing nothing, which makes people hear it as an excuse for passivity, giving up, letting life happen to you, checking out entirely. That's not what it means at all. Wu Wei means non-interference, not adding force where force only makes things worse. Checking your phone during a hard task doesn't feel like force. It feels like nothing, like a small break, like relief. But it's still a hand going into the water. The water doesn't know the difference between a hand that's trying to help and a hand that's only bored. It knows one thing: it's been disturbed, and now it has to start settling all over again. That sounds like it's just telling me to try harder at doing nothing, Theo said. It's telling you the opposite, Master Feng said. Trying is a disturbance too. The trick isn't effort in a new direction, it's fewer hands in the jar. There's an old story about a fisherman, Master Feng said, who couldn't understand why he never caught anything when the man fishing beside him in the exact same water pulled in fish all afternoon. The first fisherman was diligent. Every few minutes, worried the fish weren't biting, he'd reel his line all the way in, check the bait, recast it a little to the left, a little to the right, certain that adjustment was the answer. All day, constant small corrections, nothing. The second fisherman cast his line once in the morning and let it sit. He didn't check it every few minutes. He watched the water. Some hours nothing happened at all, and he didn't seem bothered by that either. By evening, the first fisherman finally asked him how he'd done it. The second fisherman said, "You keep pulling your line out to see if a fish is there. Every time you do, you clear the water around it and scare away anything that was getting close. I only pulled mine out when something was actually pulling back." So checking constantly is the thing scaring away the fish, Theo said, not the lack of fish. The fish were always there, Master Feng said. So was your ability to focus. You've just never given either one a stretch of undisturbed water long enough to show up in. This tracks with something researchers have actually measured. Entirely apart from any Taoist framework, it's sometimes called attention residue. When you switch away from a task, even for a few seconds, even to glance at something completely unrelated, part of your attention stays behind on what you just left, and part of it sticks to whatever you glanced at. You don't fully arrive back at the first task afterward. You arrive part-way, dragging pieces of both places with you. Do that enough times in an hour, and it stops mattering how much total time you spent trying to focus. Almost none of it was undisturbed long enough to actually work. Okay, Theo said, but the urge itself is real. It's not like I imagine wanting to check it. Something happens in my chest, almost, right before I reach for it. That's worth paying attention to, Master Feng said. What does it feel like, right before? Theo thought about it honestly, for maybe the first time. Restless, he said, like something's uncomfortable and I want it to stop. Usually right when I'm about to start something hard, or when there's a gap, waiting for something, a boring meeting, standing in line. That restlessness isn't the enemy, Master Feng said. It's just energy, arriving with nowhere assigned to go yet. The phone happens to be the easiest possible place to send it. It asks nothing of you and answers instantly. That's not a moral failure on your part. That's water finding the lowest point in the landscape, exactly like it's supposed to. So I'm just supposed to feel restless and do nothing about it? You're supposed to stop being surprised by it and stop pretending the fix is refusing to feel it, Master Feng said. The restlessness is going to arrive whether you check the phone or not. The only real choice is what's sitting there, easy enough to reach when it does. I need something I can actually do, Theo said. Not just a nicer way to think about it. Master Feng was quiet for a moment, still watching the jar. Before I give you that, he said, answer me one more thing honestly. When the restlessness shows up, right before you reach for the phone, what is it usually asking you to leave? Theo thought about it. The hard part, he said slowly. The part where I don't know if what I'm making is any good yet, or a boring stretch where nothing's happening and I just have to sit in it. Then the phone was never really the problem, Master Feng said. It's just the nearest door out of a room you didn't want to be standing in. The thing driving all of this isn't a dopamine habit. It's an exit from the discomfort of not knowing yet, from the plain boredom of an ordinary hour, from work that hasn't proven itself worthwhile yet and might not. You're not addicted to the phone, not really. You're escaping the work, and the phone is simply the fastest way out of the room. 3 shifts, Master Feng said. None of them are about willpower because willpower was never the muscle you were missing. First, practice being present without an exit, in stretches so short they feel almost embarrassing. Not an hour of forced focus, 2 minutes sitting with a hard task, or with nothing at all, and simply not reaching for the door. You're not training focus yet. You're training your nervous system to discover that discomfort doesn't kill you, and that a restless minute left alone actually passes on its own, the same way mud settles if nobody puts a hand back in the water. Most people never learn this because they never once let an uncomfortable minute finish without escaping it first. Second, get comfortable with starting by starting absurdly small. The flinch you feel before opening the portfolio isn't laziness. It's the same reflex that pulls a hand back from something that might be hot. Your mind guessing before you've even begun that this might go badly, might prove something you don't want proven. You don't out-argue a reflex like that. You retrain it, the slow way, the same way you'd teach a hand to trust a stove again, by touching something barely warm first and finding out you survive it. 1 sketch, 1 paragraph, 10 unglamorous minutes with no goal beyond finishing them. Not because it's efficient, because it teaches the reflex, again and again, that starting is safe, long before it has to believe the whole project is. Third, And this is the one people resist the most, because it doesn't ask the urge to leave. It asks you to stop treating it like an enemy. That restless feeling right before you reach for the phone isn't a flaw to eliminate. It's information. It's usually pointing quite precisely at the exact thing you're avoiding, which means it's also pointing at the exact thing worth turning toward. Making peace with resistance doesn't mean liking it. It means no longer needing it gone before you're willing to act. You let it sit in the room with you, unwelcome and uncomfortable, and you work anyway. And you find out, usually within a few minutes, that it was never actually strong enough to stop you. It only ever felt that way because you'd never once tested it. That last one sounds like it's just asking me to feel bad and do it anyway, Theo said. It's asking you to stop needing to feel good first, Master Feng said. You kept waiting to feel ready before you'd sit still, before you'd start, before you'd tolerate any of it. Readiness was never going to arrive first. It shows up after, the same way this water doesn't clear because it decided to. It clears because for once, nobody reached back in. 6 weeks later, Theo still checks his phone more than he'd like. He isn't cured, and Master Feng never promised he would be. Nobody keeps the jar from ever getting bumped again. That was never actually the goal. What changed instead was smaller and stranger than he expected. He started sitting through 2 uncomfortable minutes at a time. No phone, no task, just the restlessness itself, until 2 minutes stopped feeling like something he needed to escape. Then he tried it at the start of the portfolio work before he felt ready, because he'd finally stopped waiting to feel ready first. The projects didn't get finished because he found a better system for blocking the apps. They got finished because he'd practiced in small, deliberate doses, the specific discomfort of staying in a hard room a little longer than instinct wanted to allow. 4 of them finished where there used to be none. Not from willpower, but from tolerance built 2 uncomfortable minutes at a time. He still sees Master Feng at the pond sometimes, though less often now. The jar sits on the bench between them most days, and more often than not, by the time they've said everything they mean to say, it's gone clear. Nobody in this story deleted the apps for good, or found a version of willpower nobody else has access to. Theo still gets restless. He still sometimes checks his phone 40 times before lunch. That was never actually the measure of whether this worked. The real change was underneath that. He stopped mistaking the phone for the problem and started noticing what it had always been the exit from. The discomfort of work that hadn't proven itself yet. The plain boredom of an ordinary, unfilled hour. The small, ordinary hardship of not knowing if what he was making was any good. Wu Wei, in the end, wasn't a fancier way of telling him to try harder at not checking his phone. It was permission to stop fighting the urge directly and start building his capacity to stay in the room the urge was trying to get him out of. If you've ever felt like you already know exactly what you're doing to yourself and still can't seem to stop, this is worth hearing plainly. It was probably never a phone problem. It's an escape from discomfort problem, and the phone just happens to be the nearest door. You don't fix that by fighting the urge harder. You fix it the way Theo did. In short, deliberate, uncomfortable doses, staying 5 minutes longer than instinct wants, again and again, until the room isn't something you need to run from anymore. If this one found you at the right moment, there's more of these coming. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Kai Chen. For the last 11 years, Kai has tried to change his life. Not once, not twice. 11 years, 11 January mornings, 11 fresh notebooks with the first page reading some version of the same sentence. This year is different. He has read the books. He has listened to the podcasts at double speed on his commute. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do. So he laces up brand new running shoes and goes for 4 days without fail. His meditation app shows a 3-day streak, then nothing. And on a night like most others, he tears a fresh page out of his journal, crumples it, and starts again. And yet, every single time, by February, sometimes by the second week of January, he is back where he started, somehow further back, as if the trying itself cost him something. Tonight, Kai is about to meet someone who will explain why, not with more discipline, not with a better system, but with an idea that will feel at first like the opposite of everything he's been taught. Kai worked in logistics, a job that rewarded exactly one skill, forcing something to happen on schedule, no matter what got in the way. A delayed shipment wasn't a signal to adjust. It was an obstacle to overpower with enough phone calls, enough pressure, enough will. He'd become very good at this. So naturally, when he looked at his own life, the extra weight, the anger that flared too easily with his younger brother, the anxiety that kept him rehearsing conversations at 2 in the morning, he applied the only method he knew. Rule 1, he wrote, no sugar. Rule 2, gym, 5 days, no excuses. He underlined it twice, hard enough to tear the page. He would start Monday with something close to violence in his own chest, a tightness, a bracing, like a soldier steeling himself before a battle he'd already fought and lost 10 times before. And that, though he didn't know it yet, was the first clue. By Thursday, something in him would simply revolt. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't laziness exactly. It felt more like a rubber band that had been pulled too far, snapping back harder than before. And then, this was the part that really confused him. He'd feel worse than if he'd never tried at all, heavier, more stuck. Everyone else can do this, he thought. Why can't I just do the thing? What Kai didn't know, what almost no one tells you, is that he wasn't failing at change. He was succeeding perfectly at something else entirely. He just didn't know what. He'd started walking by the river some mornings. Not to exercise, just to escape the apartment that had begun to feel like a small courtroom, where he was both defendant and judge. It was on one of these aimless mornings that Kai first noticed the old man, sitting on a low stone by the water, not fishing, not meditating dramatically, just watching the river. He was there the next morning too, and the morning after that. His name, Kai would learn, was Master Lin. He didn't offer the title himself. Kai found out later from an old woman who sold tea nearby that he'd once taught Taoist philosophy at a university before deciding he preferred rivers to lecture halls. On the 4th morning, curiosity beat out Kai's usual instinct to keep to himself. "Excuse me," he said. "You're here every day. Do you fish?" "There's never a rod." The old man smiled without turning. "I watch the river decide where to go," he said. "It's better company than most people I know." "Can I ask you something?" Kai said. "You look like someone who has his life figured out. Calm. Not fighting anything." "Is that what it looks like?" Master Lin said, genuinely amused. "I don't know," Kai said. "I just know I don't feel like that. I keep trying to fix things about myself and I keep failing, and it's starting to feel less like bad luck and more like, I don't know, like I'm broken somewhere." Master Lin was quiet for a moment, turning a small stone over in his hand. "You're not broken," he said. "You're pushing a river." What does that mean?" Kai asked. "Tell me what you're trying to change," Master Lin said. "Specifically." "Everything, basically," Kai said. "My weight. I lose my temper with my brother over nothing, and I hate myself after. I can't sleep because my mind won't stop replaying things. I make a plan every January, and by February it's dead. Every year. 11 years now." "And how do you make the plan?" Master Lin asked. "What do you mean, how?" Kai said. "I decide what's wrong, and I force myself to stop doing it." "There it is," Master Lin said, nodding slowly, as if this confirmed something. Master Lin stood, walked a few steps to the river's edge. Kai followed. "Come," Master Lin said. "Look at this water." The current bent around a large rock in its path. Not stopping, not smashing through, simply bending, finding the space beside it, continuing on the other side without losing any of its volume or momentum. "What is the water doing to the rock?" Master Lin asked. "Nothing," Kai said. "It's just going around it." "Is the water weaker than the rock?" Kai hesitated. "No, actually, no. Water carves canyons. It's stronger over time, just not right now, not in this moment against this specific rock." "Good," Master Lin said. "Now, what would happen if the water tried to force itself straight through the rock, refused to bend, insisted on the direct path?" "It would just crash into it," Kai said. "Splash back on itself, go nowhere." "This is what you have been doing for 11 years, Master Lin said. "You saw a rock, your weight, your temper, your sleepless mind. And instead of finding the shape of the river around it, you have been running straight at it over and over and calling the resulting splash effort. This is the moment worth pausing on, because what Master Lin is describing isn't just a nice metaphor. It's a precise, almost mechanical explanation for why willpower-based change so often fails. And it's worth understanding exactly how. In Taoist thought, this idea has a name, Wu Wei. It's often mistranslated as doing nothing, which makes it sound like an excuse for laziness. That's not it at all. Wu Wei means effortless action, action that works with the shape of things as they actually are, rather than against it. Not passivity. Precision. "Every habit you have," Master Lin continued, sitting back down, "even the ones you hate, is a groove worn into you by repetition. Your anger at your brother, that groove has been carved by hundreds of small moments, each one making the next one easier, faster, more automatic." "Okay," Kai said. "So how do I fill in the groove?" "You don't fill it in by hurling yourself against it," Master Lin said. "When you decide, in one furious moment of willpower, I will never lose my temper again, what actually happens in your body? It feels like bracing," Kai said, thinking back. "Like I'm clenched, waiting for the moment I'll fail almost." "Exactly," Master Lin said. "You are not relaxed and different. You are tense and the same, just holding your breath. And what happens to held breath? Eventually, you have to let it out," Kai said. "And when you do, when your brother says the one thing on the one day you're tired, and the anger comes rushing back, what happens to the groove?" It gets deeper, Kai realized, because now there's also the memory of failing. So next time it's even easier to fall into it. This is why forcing a pattern to stop often strengthens it, Master Lin said. The tension of resistance is still attention, still energy, still repetition, just aimed at fighting the groove instead of walking a new path. And a groove doesn't care whether the energy poured into it is love or hatred. It only cares that energy was poured in at all. This is worth sitting with because it explains something almost everyone who has tried to change themselves has felt but rarely put into words: why the failure feels worse than never trying. It's not just disappointment, it's that the failed attempt at forcing has often deepened the very groove you were trying to erase, because for a moment all your focus, all your emotional intensity was pointed directly at it. Even in defeat, you fed it. Master Lin gestured for Kai to walk with him. They passed a small field at the edge of the park, tended by someone else, rows of vegetables just beginning to sprout. "Let me ask a different question," Master Lin said. "Have you ever grown anything? A plant?" "My mother had a garden," Kai said. "I remember she'd get furious if I tried to help by tugging on the sprouts to make them grow faster." Your mother understood something many people forget entirely, Master Lin said, smiling. There's an old story, a farmer, impatient, watching his rice grow too slowly. Every day he goes out, and every day the shoots look the same height. He can't stand it, so one day he goes to the field and pulls each shoot up just slightly to help it along. That evening, he tells his family proudly, "I have helped the rice grow taller today." The next morning, they go to look. "Let me guess," Kai said. "It's all dead." "Every stalk," Master Lin said, because the growing was never the part that needed force. The roots needed time, water, sun, conditions. His pulling didn't add anything real. It only interrupted the one thing that was actually working. This story is one of the oldest illustrations of Wu Wei in Taoist teaching. The farmer who helps the sprouts grow is, in the original telling, a symbol of exactly the kind of self-improvement Kai has been practicing for over a decade. Frantic, well-intentioned, and destructive precisely because of its intensity. "So what? I just don't do anything?" Kai asked. "I wait for change to happen on its own?" "No," Master Lin said. "This is the misunderstanding almost everyone has the first time they hear this idea. Wu Wei is not do nothing. The farmer still has real work, real essential work." "Like what?" Kai asked. "He clears stones from the soil. He makes sure water reaches the roots. He pulls the weeds, not the rice, the things competing with the rice. He positions the field to catch the right amount of sun. None of this forces growth. All of it permits growth. Do you feel the difference? Force is trying to create the outcome directly," Kai said, genuinely turning this over. "And this other thing is creating the conditions where the outcome creates itself." "Yes," Master Lin said. "Say that again, slower, it matters." "Force tries to create the outcome directly," Kai repeated, working it out as he spoke. "Wu Wei creates the conditions and lets the outcome arrive on its own." "That is the entire teaching," Master Lin said. "Everything else is just learning to apply it." 1 week later, Kai returned to the river. He'd been visibly thinking about this. His notebook looked different now. Fewer rules, more questions written down. "I tried something this week," Kai said. "My brother called, and he said the thing he always says. The thing that usually sets me off in about 4 seconds. And instead of fighting the anger, I just didn't grip it. I let it be there. I didn't add fuel, but I also didn't slam a lid on it." "And?" Master Lin asked. "It was still uncomfortable," Kai said. "But it passed in maybe 30 seconds instead of turning into a 2-hour spiral where I say something I regret. I don't totally understand why. Let me show you something about anger," Master Lin said. "About any strong pattern, really. What do you think anger is made of?" "I don't know," Kai said. "Adrenaline being right. Anger, in the moment it first arrives, is mostly just energy," Master Lin said, shaking his head slightly. "A rush, a heat, information trying to move through you. It becomes an anger episode, the kind that lasts 2 hours and ends in regret. Only when you add a second thing on top of it." "Which is?" Kai asked. "Resistance," Master Lin said. "Either you resist it by trying to suppress it, clamping down, which is its own kind of force, or you resist it by justifying it, feeding it a story about how right you are to feel this way, which is force in the opposite direction. Both are force. Both are grabbing the water and trying to make it go somewhere by hand, instead of letting it find its own way past the rock. This maps onto something modern psychology has independently observed, even outside any Taoist framework. Emotions, physiologically, tend to move through the body in a matter of seconds to a couple of minutes, if nothing is added to them. What turns a wave into a storm is almost always the layer we add on top, the suppression or the story. The Taoists have a phrase for the state before you add that second layer, Master Lin said. Pu, the uncarved block. It means something simple, unshaped, before the mind's stories have carved it into a particular form. Your anger, in its rawest second, is pu. It's just energy. It's what you do in the next 4 seconds that turns it into either a passing wave or a 2-hour war. So the practice isn't don't feel anger, Kai said. It's don't grab it. Now you're understanding, Master Lin said. Okay, Kai said. I believe you, or at least I want to, but I need something practical. I can't just sit by a river philosophizing every time I want to eat better or sleep better. What do I actually do differently starting tomorrow? Good, Master Lin said, with a small approving nod. Wisdom without practice is just a nicer kind of stuck. Here is what I would offer you, not 11 rules, 3 shifts. First shift, stop asking how do I force this to stop, and start asking what condition is feeding this. Your body doesn't crave sugar at 9 p.m. because it's weak. It's responding to a condition. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe dinner had no protein. Maybe it's the one moment of comfort in an otherwise demanding day. Force says, never eat sugar again, and wars with yourself nightly. Wu Wei asks, what's the actual condition making this the path of least resistance right now, and adjusts that. Sleep earlier, eat more protein at dinner, find another 5-minute comfort that isn't food. You're not fighting the river, you're changing the landscape it flows through. Okay, Kai said, that's actually different from anything I've tried. A second shift, Master Lin continued. Work in the direction the energy is already leaning, not directly against it. If you hate the gym but love walking, don't force the gym because a magazine said gym is optimal. Walk. More of what already works, aimed slightly further, beats forcing what should work and abandoning it in 3 weeks. The rice farmer doesn't force rice to grow in sand, because sand is where he'd prefer his field to be. He works the field he actually has. And the third? Kai asked. Third, and this is the one people resist the most. Let the failed attempts pass through you without adding the second layer. When you eat the thing, lose the temper, skip the plan. That moment itself is small. 30 seconds, a single choice. It's what you do in the next hour that decides whether it becomes one data point or a total collapse. Force says, I failed, I'm weak, why bother? Might as well eat the whole bag now. That's you grabbing the wave and turning it into a storm. Wu Wei says, that happened, what was the condition? Adjust the condition and moves on in the same afternoon. Not next Monday, not next January. 11 years, Kai said. I made it about willpower. You're saying it was never about willpower at all. Willpower is real, Master Lin said. It has its place. It can help you not grab the second drink, not send the angry text in the heat of the moment. But willpower spent fighting a groove head-on is like trying to hold back a river with your bare hands. Willpower spent redirecting conditions. That's a hand gently guiding water toward a new channel it was always capable of flowing through. Same strength. Completely different result. 3 months later. Kai did not become a different person. He wants you to know that if you're watching this, hoping for a miracle. He still loses his temper sometimes. He still, once in a while, eats the thing at 9 p.m. But something underneath had shifted. No, you know what? You're right. That did annoy me, Kai said on the phone with his brother. Give me a second. He was quiet for maybe 10 seconds, visibly present with the feeling rather than reacting to it. Then, calmer. Okay, I'm not gonna spiral about it. What were you saying about dinner Saturday? He still sees Master Lin sometimes, though less often now. Less because he needs to, more because he simply enjoys the company of someone who watches rivers for a hobby. "Can I ask you something?" Kai said. "After everything, the water, the farmer, the anger, if you had to put the whole thing in one sentence for someone who's about to give up on themselves for the 12th year in a row, what would you say?" Master Lin considered this for a long moment, watching the water bend around the same stone as always. "Stop asking the river to become a hammer," he said. "Learn instead where it already wants to go and simply remove what's in its way." The river was never broken. It was only ever looking for its natural course. Maybe you are too. If any part of Kai's story felt familiar, the January plans, the Thursday collapse, the feeling that failure meant something was wrong with you, I want to leave you with something practical before you go. This week, pick just one pattern you've been trying to force into submission. And instead of asking, "How do I stop this?" ask Master Lin's question. What condition is feeding this, and what's one small thing I can adjust about that condition? Not the behavior itself, the condition around it. That's the whole practice. Not 11 rules, one honest question. If you want more stories like this one, where we take a real Taoist teaching and follow one person actually trying to live it, imperfectly, the way real change actually happens, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. This is Leo. Leo runs his own design studio, client logos, branding, websites, the kind of work that pays the bills. And most days, he's good at it. But there's one project that isn't client work. It's his, a line of his own illustrated prints, sitting in a folder on his desktop labeled simply Launch. He's been meaning to launch it for 14 months. Every few weeks, the motivation shows up right on schedule, usually on a Sunday night. He opens a fresh page, sketches out a plan, feels the old electricity in his chest. This is the week. Monday morning, coffee in hand, laptop open to the folder called Launch. He sits down, ready to finally begin. And then, somehow, he spends the morning reorganizing his supply closet instead. By afternoon, he's answered every email in his inbox, including the ones that could have waited a week. He's watered the office plants twice. He's reorganized a client folder that didn't need reorganizing. The Launch folder stays closed, its little icon sitting untouched on the desktop like a door he keeps walking past. This isn't laziness, and some part of him knows that. Lazy people don't feel this specific gnawing kind of guilt. Lazy people don't set good intentions every single week and watch each one quietly fail. Something else is going on here. He just doesn't have a name for it yet. Leo built the studio himself, 5 years in. No partners, no investors, just him and a growing list of clients who trusted him with their brands. He was good at starting things for other people. A launch campaign here, a rebrand there, always on time, always finished. It was only his own work that seemed to hit some invisible wall the moment it actually mattered. The pattern had a shape by now if he was honest with himself. Sunday night, fire. Monday morning, freeze. Some low hum of dread the second he pictured the actual size of the thing. A website, a shop, 100 small decisions, a public launch with his name on it. Instead of touching any of it, he'd find something smaller and safer to be busy with. His friend Priya, who ran her own studio 2 blocks over, had stopped asking about launch week months ago. Not because she'd stopped caring, because she'd learned the answer before she asked it. Every time the same story. He'd tell her Monday was the day, and by Friday he'd tell her sheepishly that he'd gotten a lot done, just not on that. One Friday, after the 4th month of this, she finally said something different. "You're one of the most driven people I know," she said. "So this isn't a drive problem. Have you thought about talking to someone about it? Not a business coach, an actual therapist. He laughed it off. He didn't think of himself as someone with a problem big enough for therapy. Just a guy who occasionally procrastinated, like everyone did. But the word stuck somewhere he didn't expect. And 3 weeks later, mostly out of a kind of tired curiosity, he made the call. Dr. Naomi's office wasn't what he expected. No couch, no dim lighting, just a plain room with 2 chairs angled toward each other and one small plant on the windowsill that she was, he noticed, quietly trimming a dead leaf from when he walked in. "Tell me what brings you in," she said, setting the plant down. "I don't actually know if this counts as a real problem," Leo started. "I have a business, it's fine. I have a project I've wanted to launch for over a year, and I have all the motivation in the world for it, every single week, and then I just don't do it. I do everything except it." "Walk me through a typical attempt," she said. He described it. The Sunday night plan, the Monday morning coffee, the laptop open to the right folder, and then somehow, 3 hours later, a spotless supply closet and an empty inbox, and the folder still closed. Dr. Naomi nodded slowly, like this wasn't new information to her. "You keep saying you have no motivation problem," she said. "I actually think you're right about that. I don't think this is a motivation problem at all." "Then what is it?" "Let me ask you something else first," she said. "Forget the launch for a second. Right now, today, is there anything at all you'd be willing to do in the next 10 minutes? It doesn't have to be related to the business. It doesn't have to matter." Leo blinked. "Like what?" "That's the question," she said. "Not what you should do, what you'd actually be willing to do." "Here's what I think is happening," Dr. Naomi said in their next session. "Your motivation is real. It shows up every week, right on schedule, exactly like you said. The problem isn't the motivation, it's the size of the thing you're pointing it at." "I don't follow." "Motivation is a real kind of energy," she said, "but it's not unlimited voltage. Think of it like a spark. A spark can light a candle. It cannot light a bonfire, not directly. If you hold a lit match to a stacked pile of logs, nothing happens. Not because the match isn't real fire, because the match and the logs are the wrong size for each other. So the launch is the bonfire. The launch is the bonfire," she said. "A website, a shop, pricing, photography, marketing, your name attached to all of it publicly. That's not one task. That's hundreds of tasks wearing a single name. Your Sunday night motivation is a real spark. It walks up to that entire pile on Monday morning, and it has nowhere to land. So it goes looking for something it actually can do, and finds the supply closet." Leo sat with that for a moment. "So what? I just need more motivation, a bigger match." "That's what almost everyone tries first," she said. "More willpower, more discipline, more pressure on yourself. And it usually works for exactly as long as the initial spark lasts and then burns out the same way. There's an old Taoist teaching I think about a lot in this work," she continued. "It says a tree that fills your arms grew from a sprout too small to see. A tower 9 stories high began as a single pile of earth. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath your feet with the one step you're already standing next to." "That's nice," Leo said, "but I don't have 1,000 miles. I have a launch." "You have 1,000 small steps wearing the name launch," she said. "The problem isn't that you need a bigger spark. It's that you keep aiming a small, real flame at something sized for a bonfire and blaming yourself when nothing catches. There's a story I give a lot of people in your position," Dr. Naomi said. "A builder was once told to raise a great wall. He walked to the site, looked at the size of it, the length of it disappearing over the hill, and sat down on a rock, overwhelmed, and did nothing for 3 days. An old mason found him there and asked what was wrong. The builder said, 'I keep looking at how much wall there is to build. I can't make myself start." The mason said, "I never asked you to build a wall." The builder said, "Then what did you ask me to do?" The mason picked up a single stone from the pile beside them and set it down. "I asked you to lay one stone," he said. "Lay it well, then look for the next one." "That's it? Just lower the bar until it's basically nothing." "Not nothing," Dr. Naomi said. "Small. There's a difference. A stone is real. It's a genuine piece of the wall, not a warm-up, not a placeholder. The builder in that story didn't build a fake wall out of tiny fake stones. He built a real wall, one real stone at a time, because that was the only size his actual energy could move." "So, back to my question," Dr. Naomi said. 10 minutes today, anything at all. What would you actually be willing to do?" Leo thought about it, and to his own surprise, an answer came fast. "There's a chair in my apartment I've been meaning to fix for months. One leg's a little loose. I have the tools. It would take 10 minutes. "Does it have anything to do with the launch?" "Nothing at all." "Good," she said. "Do that today. Not instead of thinking about the business. Just do that and notice what happens after." He fixed the chair that evening. It took closer to 8 minutes than 10. And something small and strange happened afterward. He didn't feel like collapsing onto the couch the way he usually did after a day of productive avoidance. He felt like doing one more thing. He ended up sketching just for himself for the first time in months with no plan and no deadline. He told Dr. Naomi about it the following week, half expecting her to say he'd missed the point. "That's exactly the point," she said. "You didn't need motivation for the launch. You needed proof in your own body that motion was available to you right now on something that couldn't threaten you. Once you have that proof, it tends to carry. Not because the chair had anything to do with your business, because you did." "Okay," Leo said. "So how does this actually apply to the launch?" "I still have to build a whole website eventually." 3 shifts, Dr. Naomi said. None of them are about trying harder. First, when you feel the resistance, that stall, that freeze, stop asking, "How do I push through this?" Ask, "What's the smallest real version of this I could do right now?" Not launch the shop. Write one product title. Not build the website. Choose one font. The resistance is almost always size to the task. Shrink the task, and the resistance shrinks with it. Second, the small action doesn't have to be related to the big goal at all, especially at the start. Fixing a chair, going for a walk, drawing something with no purpose, any small, active, real thing can restart your own momentum. Motion generalizes. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish "I did something" from "I did the right something" nearly as sharply as you'd think. And third, this is the one people resist the most, because it feels too small to matter. Once you're moving, keep the steps small on purpose. Not one heroic 12-hour push. One product title today, one photo tomorrow, one page the day after. It feels slower. It isn't. 100 small stones laid without stalling will always outbuild one giant push that stalls before it starts. That last one sounds almost too simple, Leo said. Most people don't disbelieve it because it's wrong, Dr. Naomi said. They disbelieve it because it doesn't feel dramatic enough to be the answer. But drama was never the thing that was missing from your Sunday nights. You already had that. 6 months later, the launch folder wasn't just a name on Leo's desktop anymore. He hadn't launched everything at once. In one triumphant week, he'd written one product title on a Tuesday in March, photographed one print badly on a Thursday, and photographed it again the following week, slightly less badly, picked one font in April and never revisited the decision. Some weeks, he only laid one stone. A few weeks, when resistance showed up hard, he didn't touch the business at all. He fixed something else instead, small and unrelated. and let that be enough for the day. He still felt the freeze sometimes, standing at the edge of a task that looked too big. The difference now was what he did with it. He didn't wait for the freeze to pass, and he didn't try to muscle through it either. He just asked the same question every time. What's the smallest real piece of this I can do right now? Then he did that and stopped there on purpose, even on days he had more in him. In his last session with Dr. Naomi, he noticed the plant on her windowsill had grown. New leaves, one small white flower he hadn't seen before. "You've been taking care of that the whole time," he said. "Yes," she said. "A little water, never all at once. It doesn't know how to grow any other way, and honestly, neither do we." Priya noticed before he said anything. "You launched," she said one afternoon, looking at his screen. "Wait, when did you launch?" "Gradually," Leo said. "I didn't really notice it happening either." He hadn't gotten less busy. If anything, aiming small every day meant he'd shipped more in 6 months than 3 years of Sunday Night Fire had ever produced. It hadn't felt like discipline. It had felt like laying one stone and then, almost without deciding to, looking for the next one. This is worth slowing down on because it isn't just a nice story about a chair. It's the actual mechanism underneath all of it. Most people standing in front of a hard task try to generate motivation from a dead stop, aimed directly at the hardest part of the thing. That's the same as trying to push a heavy stone from a complete standstill. The most resistance you will ever feel is in that exact moment at zero before anything is moving at all. But motion has a property that stillness doesn't. Once something is already moving, a stone, a bicycle, a mind, it takes far less force to redirect it than it ever took to start it. So the small task was never meant to move the business forward directly. Its only job was to end the stillness. The chair didn't launch anything. It got Leo off zero. Everything after that wasn't a bigger push. It was a small turn, aimed at something real, made while he was already rolling. This is why just push through it fails so many people, and why it was never a discipline problem in the first place. Pushing through assumes you have to overpower resistance at the one point it's strongest, the standstill. Redirecting motion that already exists takes a fraction of the force because you've stopped fighting inertia. You're only steering it now. Leo didn't build anything out of willpower. He built it the way the plant on Dr. Naomi's windowsill grew, a little at a time, never all at once, one small real thing after another until, without ever choosing a single dramatic day for it, there was simply a business standing where a folder used to be. If there's a wall you've been standing in front of, maybe it was never asking you to lift the whole thing. Maybe it's only ever been asking for one stone small enough to actually pick up today. Lay that one. You'll be surprised how easy the next one is to find once you're already moving. If you want more of these real Taoist ideas told through one person actually living them imperfectly, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Have you ever felt like the things you're actually good at, the things that make you feel most like yourself, don't count as a real life? Like somewhere early on, without anyone quite saying it out loud, you learned that your worth was measured by how useful you could be to a career, to a family, to somebody else's idea of a stable, sensible life, and that anything outside of that was something you'd eventually have to grow out of. Most people never trace that idea back to where it started. It just arrives in a parent's worried voice, in a report card, in the specific silence that follows telling someone what you actually do for work, until being useful quietly becomes the entire test for whether a life counts. This is a story about a woman who spent years being measured against that test, and about a much older idea, one that's been sitting patiently in Taoist thought for over 2,000 years, that says the test itself might have been wrong from the very beginning. The drive back to the house takes 4 hours, most of it on a highway Mira has driven so many times in her life that her hands seem to know the exits before she consciously registers the signs. She's rehearsed this conversation in her head at least a dozen times since her father's email. 3 lines, no more emotional than a grocery list, informing her the house had sold and asking if she could come help for the last few days before the movers arrived. She hasn't figured out yet what she wants to say to him. She isn't sure there's anything left to say that they haven't already said. In the careful, unspoken way this family says things, the house looks smaller than she remembers, the way houses always do. A moving truck sits in the driveway, half loaded, its ramp still down. A for sale sign leans against the mailbox, a sold sticker already slapped across it, not yet planted properly in the lawn. And in the backyard, visible even from the street, stands the tree, the same as it has always been, twisted nearly in half on itself, branches knotted into shapes that look less grown than argued into being over 100 years of stubbornness. Her father is on the porch when she pulls in, arms crossed, watching her get out of the car. "You made good time," he says. It is, she realizes, the entire conversation they are going to have about the drive. Possibly the entire conversation they are going to have about anything, unless something forces otherwise. Mira runs a small ceramics studio 2 states away, a converted garage behind a rented house, a second-hand kiln she'd bought off a retiring potter for less than it was worth. Glazes she mixes herself because she's never once been able to afford the good ones pre-made. 3 days before this drive, a gallery she'd pinned 6 quiet months of hope on sent her a 2-line rejection email while she was mid-glazing, and she'd had to set the piece down and stand very still for a while before she could pick it back up. She hadn't told her father about the gallery. She hadn't told her father much about the studio at all in 3 years, not because he'd forbidden the subject, but because of a phone call. It had been a Tuesday. She remembers that clearly, the way you remember the small details attached to something that changed shape in your memory afterward. She'd finished a collection she was genuinely proud of, the first work in years that felt like her own voice instead of an imitation of someone else's. And she'd called him because some old, stubborn part of her still wanted him to be the first to know. "That's great, honey," he'd said after she described it. A pause. "Are you still doing the wedding registry pieces too, the bowls?" She'd said yes, some. "Good," he'd said. "Good, that's smart. Keep something coming in." Another pause, longer this time. "You thought any more about maybe picking up something steadier, just as a base? You could still do the studio on weekends." She hadn't said anything for a moment. "I just worry," he'd added, into the silence, and it was the worry in his voice that made it impossible to be properly angry at him, then or since. He hadn't meant it as an insult. He'd meant it the way you'd remind someone to bring a coat. Concern, wearing the wrong clothes. She hadn't brought up the studio to him again after that. Not out of spite. It had simply stopped feeling like something worth the specific kind of tired that talking about it with him produced. Her father, Daniel, had spent 31 years as an actuary before retiring the previous spring. 3 decades of calculating exactly how much risk a life could safely carry before something broke. Packing up this house, she thought, watching him tape a box shut with unnecessary precision, was probably the same work to him in a different register, deciding room by room what could be safely let go of. They spend the first 2 days in a careful, practiced quiet, the kind 2 people build over a long time specifically to avoid disturbing whatever is underneath it. On the second night, over reheated soup at a kitchen table already half-packed into boxes. Daniel asks whether she's eaten enough of it, twice within the space of 10 minutes. Mira answers yes, both times. Neither of them mentions the phone call from 3 years ago, though it sits at the table with them so plainly that not mentioning it starts to feel itself like its own kind of conversation. They talk instead about the weather, about which boxes go to the new apartment and which go to storage, about whether the old dining table is worth moving or worth selling. It's the attic that finally breaks the quiet on the third afternoon. The last room in the house, not even technically part of the sale, just a place where things had been going to disappear for the better part of 40 years. Mira finds the box by accident, sliding a lamp aside to reach a stack of water-damaged magazines. It isn't labeled, unlike almost everything else in the house, which her father has organized into a system with a specificity that would be almost funny if it weren't so exactly like him. Inside, a set of old woodworking tools, handles worn dark and smooth by a hand that used them for years. A stack of small carved wooden animals, several left unfinished. A fox with only 3 legs shaped, a bird with no wings yet, as if the carver had simply stopped mid-thought one day and never come back. A photograph, black and white, curling slightly at one corner, of a man she recognizes without ever having really known him. Her grandfather, Daniel's father, dead 11 years now, a soft blur of a person mostly made of other people's secondhand stories rather than any memory of her own. And underneath all of it, a small leather journal, its spine cracked in the same place from being opened the same way, over and over for what looks like decades. "That was your grandfather's," Daniel says. He's standing in the attic doorway, and Mira hadn't heard him come up the stairs. His voice doesn't sound like it particularly wants to keep talking about it. "Can I look through it?" He's quiet long enough that she almost sets it back down in the box on its own. "Sure," he says, finally. Then, quieter, "I never could." The journal isn't a diary in any conventional sense. Most of it is lists, supplies needed, measurements, notes on which piece of wood split which direction and why. But near the back, in a different pen, in handwriting that looks like it was written in one sitting instead of stretched over years, there's a longer entry. Mira reads it out loud before she quite decides to. Her grandfather had written about a tree. This tree, the one in the yard below the attic window, the one everyone in the family had made some version of the same joke about for as long as anyone could remember, the one that never bore fruit, dropped leaves that clogged every gutter within reach every autumn, and was, by any practical measure, her father had grown up hearing repeated at the dinner table, completely, uselessly, undeniably a waste of good yard space. He'd read an old story once her grandfather had written about a carpenter traveling with his apprentice who passed by a tree exactly like it, an enormous, ancient, twisted oak that an entire village had left standing for generations, sacred to them in some old, half-forgotten way. The apprentice was amazed by it, the biggest tree either of them had ever seen, and asked why his master didn't even slow down to look. The carpenter said the tree was worthless. Its wood was so knotted it would split any beam, sink any boat, rot any coffin before it finished being built. Not one usable thing could be made from it, start to finish. That, the carpenter said, is exactly why it's had the chance to live this long. That night, her grandfather had written, the tree came to him in a dream and asked what he thought it actually meant to be useful. "Look at the trees they do cut down," it said, "the ones with good straight grain. The ones that bear sweet fruit, they're stripped bare and hauled off before they've had the chance to finish growing. I have spent 100 years being no good to anyone for a single practical thing, and that is the entire reason I am still standing here to tell you about it." Underneath that, in the same careful hand, Her grandfather had written, "I have spent my whole life being told I was that tree, not sharp enough for my own father's business, not sensible enough to keep steady work 2 years running." There were long stretches where I lay awake, ashamed of it, certain everyone was right about me. Then I got old enough to start noticing something. I am still here. Half the men who called me useless in this town are not. And then, in a different ink, added later, in smaller, tighter letters, like it had cost him something to write. I worry sometimes that Daniel thinks I regret the life I lived. I don't know how to tell him that I don't. Not really. Not even on the hardest days. I worry more, and I don't know how to say this to his face either, that he's going to spend his whole life making sure no one can ever call him useless, and that it's going to cost him a great deal more than being called it ever cost me. Mira reads that last line twice before she looks up. Neither of them says anything for what feels like a long time. Daniel walks to the small attic window, which looks out, almost too precisely, directly over the tree. "He used to tell me that story," he says eventually. "The carpenter and the tree. Word for word, some years, like it was scripture. I thought he was just building himself an excuse for not trying harder, for not wanting more out of his life than he had." "Did you ever ask him if that's what he meant?" "Once," Daniel says. "I must have been 16, 17. I asked him if he ever wished he'd been, I don't remember the exact word I used. Practical, maybe. Ambitious." He's quiet again, longer this time. He said the tree isn't ashamed of not being a boat. Daniel is quiet for a moment, and when he speaks again, his voice has changed slightly, gone a little rougher at the edges. "The day I told him I'd gotten the actuary job, the good one with the pension, the one everyone said was smart, he shook my hand like I'd won something, and some small, ungenerous part of me thought, finally something I'd done that he couldn't call impractical." He's quiet again. "It took me a long time to notice that's a strange thing to feel proud of, needing your own father to finally approve of you for being careful." Mira doesn't say anything. She has learned, over a great many years, that her father needs room around his own sentences or he will take them back before they finish landing. "I was 12 years old," Daniel says, "when I decided very specifically that I was going to be nothing like him. Steady job, steady paycheck. Nobody ever was going to look at my life and call it a waste of a life. And I built exactly that, 31 years of it, and somewhere inside building it, I decided you weren't allowed to build anything else. And I don't think I ever once told myself that decision was about him. I told myself it was about protecting you." "You've never once asked to see anything I've actually made," Mira says. It comes out flatter than she means it to, less angry than simply tired. 11 years of not saying it, arriving all at once, in one sentence in an attic that smells like dust and cedar. "I know. That's it, you know?" "I don't have a better answer than that," Daniel says. "I think some part of me was afraid that if I looked at your work and it was good, I'd have to admit I'd spent years worrying about nothing. And if I looked at it and didn't understand it, I'd have to admit something else, some other kind of failure, in a different direction. So I didn't look. It felt safer not to. I don't think I let myself think about what that cost you. Not really. Not until this week." Mira turns the journal over once in her hands. "Grandpa's 40th birthday. You remember that dinner? You gave a toast about how he finally found steady work at the hardware store, like it was this relief for the whole family. Everyone laughed. I was 9. I didn't understand why it made him go quiet for the rest of the night. I understand it now." Daniel doesn't answer that directly. "He knew," he says instead. "He knew I'd do exactly this to you one way or another, He wrote it down instead of saying it to me. Why do you think he never said it to your face? I think that might just be what happens in this family, Daniel says. Somebody writes the true thing down, and somebody else finds it 40 years later in an attic, holding a box that was never even supposed to be looked at again. It isn't an apology, not exactly. Mira isn't sure her father has the words for that shape of sentence, and she isn't sure she needs him to find them today. But it's the closest thing to one she has heard from him in longer than she can clearly remember, and something in her chest, held tight carefully for 11 quiet years, loosens by some small, specific amount. It turns out the buyers want the tree gone. Something about the roots growing too close to the foundation. Something about liability, about insurance, about a landscaper's quote already sitting in an email somewhere. Something practical and, probably on paper, entirely correct. Daniel had told the realtor weeks ago it was fine, just a tree. That evening, after Mira has gone back up to finish the attic, she hears him on the phone in the kitchen below, his voice low but clear enough to carry up the stairwell. He tells the realtor the buyers can have the house or the tree removal, but not both, not from him. Either they take the yard exactly as it stands, or they find another house to buy. It isn't a large thing in the scheme of a life. It costs him, if anything, a slightly harder negotiation and a little money off the final number. But Mira understands, listening from the top of the stairs, that it was never really about the tree. Later that night, the two of them end up standing under the tree together without quite planning to. Daniel out for a last cigarette he gave up officially years ago, and still has one occasionally in private. Mira unable to sleep in a house that will belong to strangers within the month. Neither says much. The branches move overhead, unbothered, the way they have for longer than either of them has been alive. The next morning, before she leaves, Daniel walks her out to the car. He asks her, without quite managing to look at her directly while he says it, if she would bring one of her pieces the next time she visits. Not because he needs convincing of anything, he adds quickly. He would just like to see one, in whatever place he's living by then, for as long as he's still around to keep it. She tells him she will. 6 weeks later, Mira drives to her father's new apartment. Smaller, tidier, one bedroom, half the boxes still unpacked along one wall, carrying a single glazed bowl wrapped in an old dish towel. It isn't her best piece. It's one of the plain wedding registry bowls he once told her, gently, to keep making more of. She'd almost brought something more impressive instead, something that would prove a point. In the end, she'd decided the point wasn't the one worth making. Daniel turns it over in his hands for a long moment at the kitchen table, running a thumb along the glaze the way she remembers her grandfather running a thumb along a piece of wood checking the grain. He doesn't say it's brilliant. He doesn't pretend to understand the glaze technique when she starts to explain it, and stops halfway through when she sees his eyes glaze in the specific way they always have at anything technical. "It's good," he says instead, simply. "I don't know enough to tell you why, but I can tell it's good." It is, Mira thinks, driving home afterward, a small sentence to have waited 11 years for. It is also, she realizes, somehow enough. Nobody in this story gets fixed, not completely. Daniel doesn't undo 30 years of what he taught himself to believe about what a life is supposed to look like to count as worthwhile. Mira doesn't stop carrying somewhere what it cost her to go that long without being asked a single question about the work she loved. The tree in the old backyard stays exactly as gnarled and impractical as it has always been. New owners, same crooked, useless, unkillable tree, still standing. But something real did happen under that tree's shadow that week. Not a lesson delivered all at once, just a family, 3 generations deep, finally saying part of the true thing out loud instead of leaving it in a journal for somebody else to find decades later. Daniel spent 31 years making sure no one could ever call him that tree. It worked. It also cost him 11 years of not knowing what his own daughter had actually made with her hands. Because somewhere along the way, avoiding uselessness had quietly become more important to him than staying close to the people he loved. And Mira's work was never going to make her rich or safe or easy to explain at a dinner party. That was never actually the test that mattered. It was hers, made because it was true, not because it was useful. And that turned out to be the whole reason it was worth making in the first place. So if some part of your life has always felt like the crooked branch nobody quite approved of, too impractical, too slow to pay off, too hard to explain to the people who worry about you, it might be worth asking exactly what all that straight, sensible, useful wood around you actually got in the end for being so easy to cut down, and what it's quietly costing you right now to keep trying to become it instead. If this one found you at the right time, there's more of these coming. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Theo Marsh. Every morning he wakes up with real intentions. The gym before work, the portfolio he's been meaning to finish for 2 years, the 10 pages of a novel he swears he'll read before bed instead of after. And nearly every morning he reaches for his phone to check the time and somehow surfaces 90 minutes later, thumb still moving, having learned nothing worth keeping and quietly compared his entire life to several hundred people he has never met. He knows it's happening. That's the strange part. He isn't confused about the mechanism. He's read the articles about dopamine and infinite scroll. He's tried the grayscale trick. He's set app timers. He clicks straight through without reading. None of it seems to matter in the actual moment. The moment always feels like just 5 minutes, and the 5 minutes always turns out to be a lie that he tells himself with total conviction every single time. His friend Owen, watching him check his phone for the 4th time in 10 minutes over lunch, finally says something. "You put your phone away whenever you talk to me," Owen says, and then 20 seconds later, it's back in your hand. "I don't think you're actually choosing to do that." Theo laughs it off, but it stays with him longer than he expects. Theo works a job he doesn't hate exactly, but doesn't want either. Steady, forgettable. Not what he pictured for himself at this age. 2 years ago, he decided he was going to build a portfolio and switch into design work. Something that actually used the part of his brain that felt alive. He bought the software, he watched the first 4 tutorials, and somewhere in the 2 years since, evenings that were supposed to belong to that portfolio kept dissolving into his phone instead. Not because he decided to give up on it, exactly, but because the phone was always right there and starting felt hard, and scrolling felt like nothing at all. He'd tried discipline. Real discipline, the kind where he deleted the apps entirely for a week, felt proud of himself, and then reinstalled all of them on a Thursday night after a bad day at work, telling himself it would just be temporary.